Welcome back to Fitness or Fiction. Today we're going to talk about biohacking. Curtis trying to hack them biceps to be bigger. So biohacking.
What is biohacking, Eric? Can you give me a definition?
It's a biological hacking. That means you're trying to hack. You're trying to cheat.
You can't use pieces of the word in the definition.
I can do whatever I want. You can cheat.
No,
you're trying to cheat.
I speak for everybody when I say
you can't do that either.
That.
Only I do that. You're cheating biology. You're becoming the Terminator. The T-1000.
I need your clothes.
Give me the cybernetic organism.
Your bike and your boots.
That was my favorite Terminator, number 2.
Oh, yeah. Everybody's was.
The way he loaded the shotgun on the motorcycle.
So sideways already. We can't do that. Okay, so micro-optimization or biohacking is making small marked changes to influence your body maximally.
There's high levels of this, though, and there's low levels of it.
Tell me about it.
So, like, the low levels of biohacking would be considered like your Fitbit on your wrist. Biohacking, trying to track your sleep, track your heart rate variability, blah, 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 blah. The higher levels of it would be like doing genetic testing to see what you're predisposed to and your food sensitivities. And that's like at a higher level. And there are people that are actually like chipping themselves with certain chips to track things like glucose monitoring. Like even if you're not diabetic, you're just going to slap a glucose monitor on yourself.
Continuous glucose monitoring is becoming a thing. Even my brother did that just to see what his insulin looked like and stuff like that. Like it's getting to be a thing. It is.
Yeah. So there are levels to this stuff. High levels, low levels. I think we're talking somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel triggered by this term.
Biohacking.
Well, it just seems to me like
it's catchy.
Well, yeah, but it's almost sold like you're going to like bypass the system and find like a special way. Like, do you not feel like that a little bit? Or is it just me?
Yeah, and that's how they coin the terms, though. That's the hype of the whole industry.
Yeah.
Trying to get some buy-in on it. Like the Fitbit's going to help you lose weight.
Well, hey, man, I think it could. I think there's actually some research behind when people see visual representations of here's how many steps you've had today and here was your progress. I think that's pretty well documented that can help. Like if you don't have data and visibility, it's hard to make sure that you're taking the right steps. Mm-hmm. I think that's a fair thing to say. But I think that this just gets overrun. I don't think it's bad on the outset of it.
You're not poo-pooing on the biohacking?
No.
The biohackers?
No, I have a hard time poo-pooing on almost anything that gets people active. Like my intention is that people can experience how good they can be through exercise.
I think biohacking, the term just seems way too convoluted for what it actually is. Like if biohacking is just tracking these markers, like for me, for instance, I have clients and I sometimes wear a watch to track my sleep and stuff like that. And when we compare sleep, if me and you compared sleep, I know you're not sleeping 9 hours a night, Curtis.
I sleep almost 8 hours a night every night.
Okay, respect. Respect.
I do pretty good.
So when I see people and they show me their Fitbit watch and we're going through it and it's 5 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, 5 hours of sleep, and then they're complaining that they're tired and that they don't have energy for their workouts and they're foggy and maybe anxiety, depression, whatever. I think a lot of that can be correlated to just prioritizing your sleep. And it's hard, even myself right now. Like I'm still trying to prioritize my sleep to the point to make sure I get 8 hours. Because if I don't, I actually notice a big difference. And things like even, being a new dad and working out and just life and adulting is so busy. The idea of like shutting my life down at 10 p.m. and playing video games for 2 hours to try to chill and make my brain happy, tickle the brain, or go to sleep. Because if I go to sleep, then I got to start adulting as soon as I wake up again, right? So That's kind of the trap that gets it. Like we talked about, what was it? Where revenge sleep as parents.
Well, it almost is like experience stretching in a way, right? Because like if you just go to bed, you might feel better the next day, but then you don't feel like you've had any time to yourself. Yeah. So like I get why it happens, and I do it myself, but like it's really interesting because when you look at sleep research. Like there's whole books on sleep. And one of the books that I read about sleep was just talking about people often say, I don't need 8 hours of sleep. And it's like, based on our research, about 1% of people get away well with less than 8 hours of sleep. Mm-hmm. And furthermore, as you get older, you don't need less sleep. You actually need more. Like the old people that are late to bed and early to rise, like those people often have faster cognitive decline and poorer scores on cognition tests.
Talking about sleep too, when we talk about biohacking, how else could you biohack your sleep? One way, I don't know if I believe it fully. I haven't done enough research on it, but they talk about reducing your blue light exposure, like stop staring at TV, stop staring at your cell phone, 2 hours before bed or something like that.
Yeah.
So biohacking, they have glasses that have blue blockers in it, so you can put your blue blocking glasses on. It's going to block the light, so you can sit there and continue to purge TikTok before bed, whether it actually works or not. I think the research says that it doesn't work, but they still sell it because it's not locked down as a standard in the industry.
So I have a privacy screen that we've talked about recently on my laptop, and it makes it so that people can't see in from the side. They have to be right behind you to see what you're doing. And there's some value to that, especially when I'm working on people's programs and stuff. I don't want everyone to see what I'm doing, but it's also a blue light filter. And I will tell you for sure, when I'm working on that computer, if I'm putting in like a good hour-and-a-half shift on that computer, if I have the privacy screen on with the blue light filter, I don't feel all bleary-eyed after. Like,
so your eyes might feel better, but is it affecting your cognitive brain when you go to sleep?
I don't think so. And here's my thing. I actually think that the impact on your sleep is not just the blue light. I think the impact is excitement.
The dopamine hits.
If I'm, like for me, even no matter how tired I am, if I haven't seen a movie, I'll stay up and watch it. Mm-hmm. My wife, not a chance. She's sleeping. She doesn't care. She's great like that.
Yeah.
But for me, if I haven't seen it, I will stay up and watch it no matter how tired I am. And it's a novel experience for your brain, meaning it's excitatory. It's going to keep your mind spinning and involved and engaged. And if that's the case, then it's like, well, it's time to shut off for sleep. It's like, well, my brain is wired to keep going right now. I've been given all of these things that are interesting, that have my tires spinning. So I don't think it's just the blue light. I think that's part of it, but I don't think that's the entire thing.
You know the worst sleeping experience I had during a movie? You saw the Lego movie?
Yeah.
I passed out to the Lego movie in the movie theater, and I woke up during the apex climax of the movie, and it was techno music and flashing strobe lights and loud music and just explosions and stuff, and I woke up oh my god, it was a rough experience. But back to blue light, our iPhones, and I'm sure all the Android phones do as well, have a true tone or something to basically like a sunset mode. It knows when the sunset goes down based on your location, and it'll turn the blue light down and turn the red lights up and stuff like that. Again, I don't think it makes that big of a difference, but it's biohacking, Curtis.
Hey man, listen, little changes can make a difference. Just on the off chance that it might make a difference, I often work with my filter on my screen, and I don't feel like my eyes are really tired after. I don't feel all messed up like I do if I'm working on a real bright screen without that.
Yeah.
Which is okay, that's more comfortable. My eyes don't feel so dry and whatever. But outside of that, I have my phone set up so that every night at 9:30 it changes to the blue light filter.
So I don't think there's enough quantitative data out there to say whether it's awesome, it's good or it's bad or it works, whatever. But there also, in regards to your eyes and sleep, there's also biohacking information put out there by Andrew Huberman on his podcast, that as soon as you wake up, in order to control your circadian...
Get that light in your eyes.
Yeah, circadian rhythm and melatonin production. As soon as you wake up, you want to try to go outside and get natural sunlight into your eyes. And there's obviously there's research out there that says, yeah, that's facts. Does that mean as soon as you wake up, you need to run outside and stare? The sun is there, so I'm going to look right here and just absorb the light? That's the biohacking aspect of it. The hype that people think they need to run outside and touch the soil because it's going to ground them, and they're going to stare at the sun for 30 minutes and it's going to change their life. The biohacking influence is micro optimizations, where still, if you're trying to get the biggest bang for your buck, the simple stuff is going to work best. And that's get off your cell phone 2 hours before bed. Probably don't have any snacks or drinks 2 hours before bed. Do some kind of high mind task like reading or meditating or prayer or breathing, or something that's going to calm your nervous system down rather than hype it up.
Well, see, I have two sides to the biohacking conversation. On one end of it, small changes can add up to a big difference. And I think that's true, but I think the small changes we should focus on are the lowest hanging fruit. It's like, well, I don't need to be worried so much about my entire supplementation routine. Like, for example, if you're taking zinc, you're 50% less likely to get a cold. It's like, well, it's probably a good idea. Awesome. Like, keep yourself from getting sick. Great. But when somebody's like, well, before I exercise, I'm going to make sure I start taking creatine. It's like, I don't know that that's low-hanging fruit, man. Like, if you have the basic things in order, like eat reasonably well, sleep reasonably well, and exercise reasonably well, I think a lot of the stuff will straighten out. And then when we start making smaller and smaller changes, there's diminishing returns. And on the one end of it, it's like, yeah, the small changes can add up, but like start with the big stuff that matters. And then outside of that, it's like, well, don't get lost in the hype of always trying to fix the game, because it's not magic, man.
Yeah.
Like, you're not going to make this one small change and all of a sudden you're better than everyone else. And that's what's built out there.
I think biohacking adds a layer of fun to
absolutely
playing with your exercise.
Yeah.
One of those aspects of that is like Orange Theory Fitness. They run group exercise classes. A lot of it is very heart rate focused or heart rate based, and they try to get you in that optimal heart rate. So
the orange zone.
You're in the orange zone, so you're in the fat burning zone, and that's where all the magic happens zones. If you take that apart and somebody buys a heart rate monitor to biohack themselves, or they got their heart rate monitor on their watch and they're trying to hit a specific heart rate zone, if you're brand new to exercise and you're micro optimizing with your wearable tech, biohacking, if you will, I don't think you're going to see that much of a crazy difference compared to a person who just goes in and does cardio for 6 months. Like, you're doing cardio for 6 months at a medium intensity, you're doing cardio for 6 months at a medium intensity, but you're wearing a heart rate strap. The difference is probably going to be minor.
Yeah.
Just getting it done is where the magic happens.
Exactly. There's also the fact that heart rate monitoring gets less and less accurate versus how hard it is for you, the better shape you're in. So a lot of people that do Orange Theory only do it for a certain time because they plateau and stop.
What's your resting heart rate, Curtis? Do you know?
Between 53 and 55.
Loser.
Yeah.
I'm like 48, but can you even trust my watch? Probably not.
So that was as monitored during my infusion last Monday. So that was on medical equipment.
Oh, so yours was legit.
Legit. Yeah. Yeah. They kept asking me, they're like, is this blood pressure normal for you? I'm like, what is it, 1/6/64? They're like, yeah. I'm like, yeah, that's normal.
My heart rate has been measured via a $40 Garmin watch. I think the tech is trustworthy.
Maybe. But that's exactly it. It's like, well, how much does the actual number matter? Like, when I see people doing, body composition tests on in-body, which is bioelectrical impedance, it's not the most accurate thing on earth. It's relatively reliable, but you can skew it just by having more or less water.
Well, the BMI, like your body mass index, the impedance test leans on the BMI pretty heavy, I think. Well,
and it's basically measuring resistance in ohms, right? So it's like, well, how long does it take a impulse to get from this point to the other and whatever else? And the ones that are just your feet on the scale are less accurate than the ones where you have hands and feet.
Didn't the impedance test say that you're overweight?
Well, it was interesting because it told me that I was 6% body.
Don't dodge the question, Curtis. Were you overweight or not?
It told me that I was as low as 6% body fat and as high as 10%, but it would tell me that my BMI was overweight. Yeah, it would, yeah. At one point, it was obese, actually. When I was like getting up to 185, 187, it was starting to tell me that I was like borderline obese. But that's only because it was just telling me the BMI.
So to the point, though, I think me and you have always roughly been the same weight-ish, give or take 10, 15 pounds.
Well, I've been as heavy as 187. That was a long time ago, but...
It's like, I'm talking, though, in like the last like 5 to 8 years.
Oh, yeah.
5 to 8 years. My heaviest I got was 185 as well.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure when we both did the impedance test, I remember it calling you overweight and me too skinny.
That's because you're so tall.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying.
BMI is based on height.
We were probably both fluttering between 170 to 180 pounds with, we both are like relatively muscular, wink, wink. And body fat was both low on both ends, but you were overweight and I was too skinny.
Based on BMI, but BMI was never made for active population. BMI was optimized for people that are inactive, essentially.
So what are some other biohacking technology that people implement. We got talked about glucose monitors, blue light, sleeping.
Well, you'll have all sorts of tests. Like there's blood tests for all sorts of stuff.
Right.
And, I've seen a proliferation of blood test driven diagnostics in the training industry lately. And I don't think that that's a great trend. Reason being, you can have different practitioners look at the same blood test and see different stuff. And there are things that, like, if they're trained, people will see. But when I talk to an endocrinologist about hormone values, they're like, don't mess with them, man. There's so many cascades, so many different redundancies and aromatizations and things like this. Don't mess with it. It's like, okay, well, yeah, could you take some DHEA to increase your hormone levels? Yeah, you probably could. And it probably won't do anything bad because it's just a precursor. But at the same time, it's like, well, if you have like everything is a little bit low, it could be that your human sex hormone binding globulin is high, HSBG, right? So it just makes it look low at that ambient state in your blood. And for a lot of people, when it's like, well, yeah, man, my naturopath wants me to take DHEA to get my hormones up. It's like, well, how many calories do you have a day? Well, I don't know. It's like, well, let's maybe make sure that you're eating enough calories and you're getting enough calories from protein and things like this first, and then retest and see where you're at. Like, because there's a lot of factors that can change things in that realm.
Yeah, that's the advance. Like you're talking like a smart person right now. If we're talking like on just more basic terms, like 23andMe, this genetic testing, I'll tell you about your food sensitivities, the things that you're predisposed to for disease and stuff like that. So that's a form of biohacking, just basic testing like that. Oh, you're probably sensitive to eggs. Most people are. You're probably sensitive to peanuts, whatever. Gluten.
Well, it's interesting because they give probabilities. Like it's not an exact science.
Yeah, it's not a yes or no switch. It's like you may be sensitive to it.
You have a higher than average likeliness to develop dementia or whatever based on your background. When I did my 23andMe, it was really interesting. It was giving me my background and everything, and like I have some West African heritage, and I have a whole bunch of stuff in Western Europe. I have more Scandinavian than I thought, but that could be people like the Normans taking over England. You don't know, right? But everything for me was West Europe and West Africa, which was cool to see. But a lot of the stats that they were giving you as far as like your chances of developing this and your chances of developing that, it was a lot of just ratios, right? Because it's not an exact science. But when it comes to biohacking, I think for me, it's like, listen, if this helps push you down the line of something that's interesting and you're excited to continue down the pathway with a foundation of the most solid things, which is diet, exercise, and sleep / recovery, all power to you. But until you have those three pieces in line, like pump the brakes.
The last biohacking thing I wanted to talk about was the wearable technology is getting more and more crap put into it. When's the last time you had a smartwatch? It's been a while.
I had the Apple Watch, and I got rid of that.
It's been a couple years.
Right around 2019.
Yeah, so the Apple Watches now, they keep pumping more and more things to biohack, like blood oxygen levels. Like, oh, this watch is going to track your blood oxygen level, and your blood oxygen level is not supposed to go below 99, 98, something like that. It's a number that doesn't even really change, but they put it in there, I think, just because it's an added sensor and it's flare. Cool. Yeah, it's cool. It's another thing that you can track, and then they'll track your heart rate variability, and then they'll track your stress, and they'll track this, that, and it's all these things that, I don't know, it almost becomes redundant or overwhelming to the point where you'll stop paying attention to it because it means less and less.
Well, it could be that, or it could be that you're not making the best decisions based on the data. Like, I had a client the other day send me, I'm not doing my workout today because my stress level's high. And they sent me a screen cap of their watch. And I was like, I wonder if it would read that way after your workout. I just wonder. I'm not saying yes or no. I'm just, like, for me, if I'm feeling really stressed, a workout helps. Like, and it helps me feel better, probably help me recover and sleep better. Like, so I just don't, I'm not saying that I know the answer on that one, but I am saying, like, if you pathologize things, people tend to make decisions based on that data, whether it's valid or not.
To what you're talking about, so Garmin has in their watches, they have something called a body battery. And then there's the Whoop strap that got really popular from Joe Rogan. It also tells you like your readiness level. And people, there was a problem. I don't know where I heard this from, so it could just be complete BS. But if I wear a Garmin and it has the body battery, if I turned on my Garmin and I looked at it, it's like, oh, your body battery is at 60% out of 100%. You're really tired. And I'm like, I feel okay. Should I take it easy today because this watch is telling me that I'm tired, or should I just get after it? And to your point, I've had workouts where I've had a stressful day and I've done the workout and it didn't really make me feel that much better. Didn't make me feel that much worse. Just kind of stayed baseline. And then I appreciated, I had a mild appreciation for just getting the workout done anyways.
Yeah, I don't think that we need more things to make us feel like we shouldn't exercise. You know, I just don't think we need that. And it's often, I'll have people say things like, well, you know, I'm worried about overtraining. I'm like, let's pump the brakes. Let's worry about undertraining first.
Yeah.
Because most people don't need to worry about overtraining. Like, maybe if you're young, you don't have a lot on the plate. But for the average person that's got a family and kids and whatever else, like, for most of us, it's more of a concern for undertraining. Like, you don't just accidentally overtrain. Like,
you don't just accidentally.
It's one of those things. I don't think that we need to present ourselves with more reasons not to be active. Mm-hmm. And you can call me biased on that one. That's okay. But like, I'm not saying you have to crush yourself every darn day. I'm just saying, you know what? Go and read Spark by John J. Ratey. And by the end of that book, you're like, I should exercise every day. Like 20 minutes on the bike's not going to kill me, and it is going to make my head feel better. Mm-hmm. He talks about balancing neurochemicals, and he talks about brain-derived neurotrophic factor, meaning learning. Like, your ability to learn actually goes up. And all measures of cognitive and emotional wellness tend to trend upward as you consistently exercise. So it's one of these things that when we come to biohacking, like, let her rip. Like, get a good idea of where you're at. Do that. But don't let the data get in the way of the stuff you know to be true.
Yeah, biohacking's fun, but keep it in that category.
Yeah,
and don't
absolutely.
let it live your life. You're stressed. Oh, I'm stressed. Gotta chill.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. Well, if you guys like this episode, hit the like button, subscribe, share. We'll catch you guys next time.
Catch you on a flippy flop.
Thanks for joining us this week. We appreciate your support.
If you enjoyed this episode, we'd love it if you would subscribe, follow, and throw us a like on YouTube, Spotify, or Apple Podcasts.